The grocery store buzzed with the usual noise of everyday life, beeping scanners, shuffling carts, and the faint hum of conversations. But for Emma, a young mother clutching her baby to her chest, the world felt painfully loud. Her little boy stirred in her arms, his cheeks flushed, his small fists clenched in hunger. She pressed a gentle kiss to his forehead, whispering, "Just a little longer, sweetheart, Mommy's almost done." Emma's cart wasn't overflowing. Just a few essentials: baby formula, diapers, bread, milk, and a couple of apples. To others, it was nothing. To her, it was everything. She reached the checkout counter, her heart pounding. With trembling hands, she placed each item on the conveyor belt, praying silently that her crumpled bills would be enough this time. The cashier scanned the items quickly, her expression blank. "That'll be $42.80, she said flatly. Emma's stomach twisted. She laid the worn bills on the counter and began counting. 30, 35, 38. She stopped, her throat tightening. She was short. The cashier frowned. "You don't have enough." Emma looked around nervously. The line behind her grew restless, people shifting and sighing loudly. Someone muttered, "Come on, hurry it up." She swallowed hard, forcing a small smile. Can I put the apples back? Maybe the bread too." The cashier nodded, annoyed, and removed the items. The total dropped, but it was still too high. Emma felt her cheeks burn. "Okay, just the diapers then." Her voice cracked. The baby began to cry as if he could feel his mother's despair. Emma's hands shook as she tried to calm him. Her heart felt like it was breaking into 1,000 pieces. She couldn't even buy food for her child. Finally, the cashier sighed and pushed the groceries aside. "I'm sorry, ma'am. You don't have enough. You'll have to leave the items." Emma's lips quivered. She wanted to explain how she had lost her job when the cafe closed down, how every cent she had left went to keeping the lights on in her tiny apartment, how she hadn't eaten properly in 2 days so her baby could. But she knew no one wanted to hear her story. She picked up her baby's worn blanket from the bag, holding him tighter. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered through the lump in her throat. "Mommy will figure something out." Her eyes stung with tears, but she forced them back. Crying in public was humiliating. Still, she couldn't stop the single tear that slipped down her cheek as she turned to leave. People looked away. Some fiddled with their phones, pretending not to notice. Others just stared with pity, but no one moved to help. The shame was suffocating. She felt invisible and exposed all at once. Emma gently rocked her baby, who whimpered softly against her chest. She tried to put on a brave smile for him, though her heart was shattering. She thought about the baby formula sitting on that counter, just out of reach, and felt like a failure. She was about to walk out of the store with empty hands when wait. The voice was deep, commanding, and calm. It cut through the silence like a warm knife. Everyone turned their heads. A tall man stepped forward from the back of the line. He was dressed in a sharp suit, polished shoes, and carried an air of quiet authority. His presence made people part as he walked toward Emma. "Add everything she needs," he told the cashier firmly, "and double it. Groceries, formula, diapers, everything. Put it on my card." The cashier blinked in surprise. "Ah, sir, are you sure?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. No mother should ever have to beg for food for her child. Emma froze, her breath caught in her chest. She looked up at the stranger, unable to comprehend what was happening. Around her, murmurs rippled through the line. People whispered, curious about who this man was. The baby quieted, as if sensing the change in the air. Emma's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't tears of shame. They were tears of disbelief. "Why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The man turned to her, his expression softening. "Because I know what it feels like to stand where you're standing." The groceries began to pile up on the counter again as the cashier scanned them, but Emma hardly noticed. Her focus was on the stranger before her. "Why would you do this for me?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. The man's eyes grew distant for a moment, as if he was remembering something long buried. "When I was a boy, I watched my mother walk away from a store just like this. We couldn't afford milk. I'll never forget the look on her face, the same look you have right now." His voice grew husky, thick with emotion. "I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I'd never let another child go hungry." Emma's tears spilled freely now. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This man, this stranger, understood her pain. He wasn't looking at her with pity, but with empathy. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching her baby close. "You don't know what this means to us." He smiled gently. "I think I do." The cashier handed Emma the bags of groceries, now filled with more than she had dared hope for. For the first time in weeks, her shoulders felt lighter, the crushing weight of worry lifting just a little. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. He pressed it into Emma's hand. "Come see me tomorrow. We'll talk about a job." Her eyes widened. A job? He nodded. "Yes, you deserve a chance, not just charity. Let me help you build something better for you and your little one." Emma stared at the card in her hand. On it was the name of one of the city's most successful companies, along with his title, CEO. Her breath caught. This wasn't just a kind stranger. He was someone with the power to change her life. She looked back at him, stunned. You're the CEO." He smiled warmly. "Titles don't matter. What matters is what we do with what we're given." Her baby cooed softly, as if agreeing. Emma kissed his forehead, her tears now falling freely, but with joy instead of despair. She whispered to him, "See, sweetheart, there's still kindness in the world." As she walked out of the store, her arms full of groceries and her heart full of hope, the world looked different. The coldness of the morning seemed to fade, replaced by a quiet warmth. For the first time in a long time, she believed tomorrow could be better. Behind her, the man watched silently, a faint smile on his lips. He remembered his own mother's struggles and felt a sense of peace. He couldn't save everyone, but today he had saved someone. In the end, what began as a moment of shame and despair for a struggling mother turned into the doorway to hope, kindness, and a fresh beginning. One man's decision to act with compassion changed everything, not only filling a grocery bag, but filling a heart with courage and a future with possibility. This story reminds us that true wealth is not in money or titles, but in the love and humanity we share. A simple act of kindness can become a turning point, not just for one life, but for generations to come. Because no matter how dark life feels, there will always be light when people choose to care.